All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you all are doing well. This is, of course, DFS Army's tournament strategy show where we look back at last night's slate and then we'll game plan today's 9 game slate that's already filled with a little bit of craziness. So we'll see. We'll get there. We'll get there. But anyway, let's look at last night. Last night went pretty well, which is good. Um, let's see. This was the 100K winning lineup right here. And then right next to it, I have my lineup that beat it, which was awesome. A lot of you might not know this. I've won the 100K a couple of times, well, twice, and then split it a third time. But here recently, I've been trying to play the mini max a bit more and work my way back up. And I know I took some money, put it other places, that kind of thing. But anyway, so I've been playing the mini max, wanted to see if I could take it down, and I was able to last night. And the funny thing is that this line actually passed the 100K winning lineup. So let's look at this a little bit closer. Dante Exum was a core play that panned out. Tim Hardaway Jr. ended up being a core play for me. It was funny on the pre-lock show. Right towards the end, I mentioned that, hey, if Tim Hardaway plays, he's going to be a core play for me. And I was talking to someone about it later, and I was like, Tim Hardaway was a core play for everyone on a 13-game slate, but he ended up not playing. Why would I not make him a core play today? And the back injury was scary. I don't know if Thomas Dye is watching, but he did hit me up. He was like, "Hey, Josiah, should we be nervous about Tim Hardaway?" And I was like, "Yeah, we should. We should not feel super safe about it." But he's a core play. I had a feeling he would have a good run, so I'm glad that play panned out. And he was pretty low owned, so that was a good one. Grant Williams, DS, put him in there. We were over the field on him. He helped make this lineup work. Jared Allen was a leverage play. He was okay. He got us there. He helped us beat that line, but it is what it is. Strother, we got lucky as hell on. Not gonna lie, those injuries definitely helped. This line was personally doing pretty well, even with Strother struggling, but I doubt it would have taken it down. LeBron James, big shout out to B Dubs for reminding me that when LeBron is playing on national TV, you gotta you just have to have some exposure. And then Vucevic was a leverage play for us yesterday, so we were over the field to him. So really good slate in general. For me, I always like when I know I still have it in me to beat the 100K winning lineup. So, just a nice morale boost. Outside of me, we had DFS Army members crushing it across the board who beat me money wise. So Dirk Muncie, congrats to you, man. 5K win on FanDuel. Awesome takedown. My guy Crunch Missile 8 had a nice takedown, single entry. And my guy Kanger, who's also in the chat, good to see you, man. Crushed, put in $68 and won $1,600 in single entry. That is always incredible to me because I cannot play single entry for the life of me. So awesome night last night, guys. Don't want to spend too much time celebrating, patting ourselves on the back for a good night, but as you all know, you got to celebrate the wins. There's a lot of lows that can happen in DFS, so it's good to keep it going. Josh, good to see you in here. Kanger, you're right. Exactly. Congrats to you, man. Awesome wins last night. Let's keep it rolling. E-Money, hope you're doing well. I'm a loser till I win the Millie. Hope you're doing well, man. Dixon, hope all is well. Brandon, who was on the pre-lock show with me, who also had some fantastic calls yesterday. Appreciate the congrats, and I also agree. Love seeing members crush it even more than me these days, which is also part of why I do this stuff now. Like, I just like helping other people figure out how to use DFS Army's tools and stuff like that because I was a member before I was a coach here. Mo, hope you're doing well. Ortiz, hope life's treating you all right, man. Josh said he kept getting me nervous when taking charges, had me cussing like crazy. Yeah, Hardaway, especially at the start of the game, taking those charges, I was like, he's going to get into foul trouble. I'm going to look like a complete idiot having him as a core play. But, you got to risk it for the biscuit. I was personally scared last night because the lineup that was right behind me in the mini that also beat the 100K line had Kawhi and Me Too in it. And Kawhi, he didn't play any minutes in the fourth quarter. If he did, I would have fallen. And Me Too didn't really play at all in the fourth quarter either. So got a little lucky there. Dixon said, Josiah, did you have money on Draymond round 2 KO? We can't play that clown anymore. I Draymond wasn't someone I realized he was priced decently. He had some upside, but he wasn't someone that I forced exposure to. I don't recall how much exposure I had, but I wasn't over the field or anything, so it didn't hurt me too much. But yeah, I know that was awful for a lot of people. Jokic getting ejected was tough too. I had a min percentage on him, but once I realized I couldn't get leverage, I was a little bit less excited about that play. Mo, hope life's going well. Agreed. Draymond is freaking insane. He has to a 10-game plus suspension, if not more, in my opinion. Yeah, those Jokic in particular is something you just can't predict. It's just not something you can see coming. All right, y'all. Let's get into today's slate. Let's make it happen. It was fun celebrating for a little bit, but there's still more money to be made. So starting off, we are looking at this Pelicans game against the Wizards. This Pelicans team, they're in a really good spot. We know the Wizards are a god-awful defense. They will be much more interesting if Zion doesn't play. He's listed as questionable currently. If he's out, we see a nice boost in usage to guys like Ingram, CJ, Giannis Valanciunas. Let me make sure I'm not missing anyone else. No, I think we're good here. Dyson Daniels sees a little bit of a boost, but I would be prioritizing CJ, Ingram, and Joval. The issue here is, of course, if Zion plays, it's a little bit harder to play the rest of the Pelicans here, but again, they will still be in a good spot. So for now, it's the first game on the slate. We'll get this news in time. I'm hoping Zion sits just so I can load up on the Pelicans here with Ingram, CJ, and Joval. If Zion plays, I'm really just going to prioritize Giannis Valanciunas because we know he can play bigs against the Wizards. And then I'll just let the DS decide what happens with the rest of these guys, but I'll be a lot less excited about them if Zion plays. They're volatile in general. Just hard to predict those guys. Oh, there's one more guy for the Pelicans. Of course, if Zion misses this game, I already mentioned the studs I like, but Trey Murphy the third, it wouldn't shock me if he sees a little bit more run here and is more involved from an offensive perspective. His ownership is a little bit higher than I would like it to be at 13%, but I would consider him a potential leverage play as long as his ownership stays low. But it's looking like if Zion's out, he'll probably end up being pretty chalky. So not the sneaky play I thought it was, unfortunately. Let's see. Dixon, I am worried about you, man. You saying it's a pool party slate? Oh man, that's tough. that makes me nervous, but I don't think you're wrong. Yeah, agreed. Joval, smash spot for him tonight if Zion's in or out. Thomas, hope you're doing well, man. I know, yeah, the Draymond player was really unlucky. What about going Hawkins if Zion's out? That's how it's been when it happens. Yeah, I think Hawkins could be interesting. Trey Murphy returning, I'm interested in seeing how that impacts Hawkins' minutes with Zion out. It makes me a little bit more nervous about the Hawkins play. Let's see, how much is Hawkins? He needs to be cheap for me to be really excited about it. Let's see. 3,500 is not bad. They definitely can play small against this Wizards team too. Trey Murphy scares me, so I'm a little bit less excited about it, but I don't think that's a bad call, Millie. I think that's a decent call and one I would want to look a little bit closer at. All right. Let's move. Let's look at the Wizards side of the ball because everyone's talking about it. And Mel, you're right. The sim model does like CJ. The sim model likes a lot of the Pelicans today. All right. So for the Wizards, Jordan Poole is only 6,300. Let me check the sim, see what the sim's saying, see if I can get on board. Sim is comfortable with them. I mean, it likes Brook Lopez a lot more just in comparison, but just given his price range, yeah, Jordan Poole's fine. I think for me on this slate, I understand the Jordan Poole play. He definitely has upside. The matchup against the Pelicans isn't one I like to pick on too much. So I doubt I'll be getting here too much, but I don't think it's the craziest thing at 2% ownership, like you're saying, Millie. I think that's a a decent leverage play. Is one, if you're 150 maxing, you can get 5 to 10% and still be in a really good spot. If you're 20 maxing, you can probably be around 20-25% and still feel decent. There's nothing standing out for me currently besides the low ownership, but I get it as a play. I don't think it's a bad call. The thing about the Wizards is Gafford. Gafford is questionable. Of course, we saw Mike Muscala start last time. He sucked. He didn't do anything. There's that. Not really overly excited to go back to that experiment, but if Gafford sits, that makes this matchup even better for Valanciunas. And so that's really the way I'm thinking about it. Anyone else that I want to look a little bit closer at? No, it's really just Joe Val. I think Tyus Jones is a little interesting at 5,400, but not overly excited about it. And Gafford's been in pretty good form. So I don't love the Wizards today, guys, to be honest, but I think there's some interesting plays. The total is the second highest total game on the slate. And so that's part of why I'm a little bit more okay with plays from the Wizards, just because of the high total. But maybe my opinion will change by the pre-lock show. But hard to get super excited about it. The Sixers against the Pistons is a tough game to figure out because it's a decent total. We're going to like a lot of the Sixers players, but the spread is pretty wide. I like the low ownership here on the Sixers. I'm assuming everyone's kind of afraid of the blowout potential here. And so in these kind of spots, I'm totally fine getting leverage to guys like Embiid, who I think is, if you kind of put aside the spread for a little bit, which is hard to do, I think he has the best matchup for any pay up on the slate. So I think Joel Embiid is someone that I will definitely have exposure to, and I'll definitely be over the field on him and just ask the domination station to figure the rest out. And then Maxey, I think, is another guy who could be a little sneaky. 9,100 is still a price tag I hate paying for. But this is a great matchup against the Pistons. We know the Pistons like to turn the ball over a good bit too. Are they on a 20-game losing streak? That's so bad. That's not going to change today, I don't think. So I am going to be over the field to Embiid and Maxey. I just like the matchup, and I love the low ownership on them. So that's enough to stand out for me. Outside of this, I wish Melton was cheaper. It would make him a little bit easier to stomach. Batum's okay as a pay down option, but really hard to get excited about him. Ideally, we'll have better value on the slate, so we won't have to consider guys like Batum today, but I'll be okay with him showing up in a few lines. Low usage guy. I know he's a sucky player in general, guys. Zolo, what's up, man? Good to see you. Uh-oh. See, that's always the extra narratives that really can shape things sometimes. Maxey and Melton night? I hope so, Dixon. I'm definitely on Maxey. Low ownership, man. It's freaking beautiful. All right, next up we have the Pistons. This team is in such a bad spot. They're missing quite a few guys still. Let's see. Pistons. Marvin Bagley's out. Duran's out. So they're missing some bigs here. Isaiah Stewart at 5,700 is fine. I don't like picking on Embiid here. People usually get into foul trouble or they just fail. Asar Thompson, viable at 5,900, decent mid-range value play. Again, not overly excited about him. Cade Cunningham at super low ownership, tough matchup, but again, decent total. So I'm okay taking a shot here at low ownership. I like having a little bit of exposure to Cade in these spots. Not the best play on the slate or anything like that, but I like the low ownership and the upside he brings in that 8K range. I think one thing that I'm seeing as a trend is just that the 8K range in general is just not getting a ton of ownership today. People are preferring to pay down or pay up, and they're just ignoring the 8Ks, which is fine. That's not bad per se. It's just I like to target low ownership, and so that stood out to me. And I think, let me double check. The sim model's on Cade a bit as well. It's not screaming play Cade Cunningham, but he is standing out a good bit just in comparison to some of his peers. There's a few other guys we'll touch on who also have similar upside to him on this slate, but worth mentioning that as well. All right, next up we have the Atlanta Hawks against the Toronto Raptors. Looks like Trae Young's going to play tonight, which makes this team a bit more boring for me personally. DeAndre Hunter's listed as questionable, but he was at shoot around, so still pretty boring. Ultimately, I don't like picking on the Raptors very often. Capella at 6,200 is fine. I still hate that he's splitting minutes with Okongwu. And because of that, Okongwu is also viable. But again, there's other bigs on this slate I'm looking to prioritize more than Capella. One we've already touched on being Joval. The other is also in this game. I always prefer picking on the Hawks more so than playing them. If they show up a bit naturally, I'm okay with that. I'll let the DS do its thing, but I don't plan on forcing any exposure to them. This is probably making a lot of people nervous. And I see you, man. Raptors season, you're getting them a ton. I am too. I saw in the Discord, some people were like, hey, how can I get off the Raptors chalk? I'm nervous about it. Personally, I'm not really all that nervous about it. We do have some injury news here. Otto Porter Jr. is questionable. Chris Boucher is questionable. Those things matter a little bit. But ultimately, I'm prioritizing Pascal Siakam, Dennis Schroeder, OG Anunoby, Jakob Poeltl. Sim model loves all four of these individuals, and I like the matchup too. So I'll be over the field on them as much as I possibly can. If I had to guess, I think Siakam will probably be a leverage play for me tonight, but we have to see what else happens on this slate. Scotty Barnes is interesting. I have not been able to get him right this season outside of maybe a couple times. It just feels like more luck when I get him right than anything. Scotty definitely has upside. He's proven that this season. This matchup isn't overly tough, so I'm not concerned about it. I just don't like him as much as the other Raptors. So ideally, again, I like this 8K range today. I will get some Scotty Barnes exposure naturally just because he's projecting pretty well in the domination station, but I don't want to force it like I'm willing to force it for the other guys here. And then Gary Trent Jr. is looking a little chalky. I don't love that play, but if he fills in my lineups or he's the last fill-in option, I'm okay with that. Let's see. Cardi, you're on to something here talking about Hallie. We'll get there soon, man. We'll get there. All right, next up we have the Hornets against the Heat. I have a few concerns here with the Hornets tonight. I know Rozier crushed this matchup. When was it? Was it Monday? Yeah, on Monday. And he could definitely do that again. I don't love the price tag. I don't love the matchup. He's low owned, so you can get some pretty easy leverage here, but I don't foresee myself getting here. I feel like everyone's priced pretty appropriately at this point. Mark Williams is doubtful, so that matters a good bit. But no one's really standing out for me too much. I do think since they're projecting well, I'll get some exposure to these guys naturally, but I don't plan on being over the field to any of them. I just don't love picking on the Heat too often. They haven't been a great defense by any means this season, but still, nothing really stands out for me too much. So I'll get however much the DS gives me, but ideally not too much. I just don't love the Hornets tonight. Now, the Heat is another story. They are the team that have a fantastic matchup. I don't believe they were really able to take advantage of this on Monday, which is unfortunate. But the pro to this is that they are low owned once again. So Jimmy Butler at 8,800. I always have some interest in him in really soft matchups and just close games in general. He's one of those guys that typically doesn't project very well, but I'm okay. And I'm looking at him as a potential leverage play on this slate. Sim model, he's not really standing out too much there, but I just like the matchup. So he's just one of those guys that I have some interest in. Or Orlando Robinson was also another disappointment on Monday. His minutes can be a little bit all over the place. I'm willing to go right back to him here, though, at low ownership as another one of those bigs I like on this slate with decent upside. Caleb Martin is in a good spot. I'm not going to go out of my way to avoid him, but he won't be a core play for me on this slate. I'll probably be around 30-40% if I had to make an educated guess. And outside of that, not overly passionate about the rest of these guys, but I like the matchup, so I'm more open to playing the Heat than some of the other teams on this slate. Zolo said, how did you... Yeah, last night was pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good. Had a nice takedown, and was able to beat the 100K winning lineup, but did not win 100K. But at least I was able to beat that, which is nice. Some guys I follow are on Caleb Martin heavy tonight. Yeah, I think he's a good play today. He makes sense. Soft matchup, decent price tag. Uh, I'm just not looking to make him a core play, but if I had to predict if we don't get any more injury news that's super exciting on the slate, I'll be over the field. He's in a good spot. I like a lot of the Heat. You like Duncan Robinson? He did have a. I need to go back and look at it. Let's see. Duncan. He had a good game on Monday, I believe. But oh, that's on yesterday. Let's see. Duncan Robinson. He has some upside potential here. But again, I feel that way about most of the Heat. Yeah, he had 45 points on Monday. And he failed against Cleveland the game before that, but he had 42 points against Toronto. So the upside's definitely there at 6K. It's not a bad price range. And he's had 40 points a couple of times this season, especially as of late. Interesting. I don't think that's a bad call, man. I don't. I think that makes sense. And he's really low owned. Let's see what the sim model thinks. 6K. Okay. Sim model has some interest, but it like someone else a bit more. A guy I don't think I talked about, but I have a like on. I know, not trying to run it. For the Raptors, Dennis Schroeder. It likes him a bit more than Duncan Robinson. So just prioritizing them, I would prioritize Schroeder. But I do think Duncan Robinson is decent for a low-owned, high-upside player who should easily be forgotten about, even though he crushed in this matchup. I'd rather play Robinson than Rozier, to be honest. I like that. Good call out, man. Let's see. Dixon said, Josiah, is Jimmy Buckets still a thing? He hasn't been buckets for a minute. Yeah, Jimmy Butler, his upside can be a little bit all over the place. Usually we see him really explode during the playoffs most seasons, but I'll play him in tough matchups when he's low owned, that kind of thing. Yeah, picking up with Bam out. Yeah, they have to do something because they are struggling. All right. Now, the true shit show of this slate, and the reason why I'm still questioning a lot of what I'm going to be doing and everything's not set in stone, which isn't abnormal for the NBA, is that we're waiting on what the Lakers are going to do. They're on the back end of a back-to-back. They played a lot of games over the last week or so because of the in-season tournament. So it wouldn't shock anyone if LeBron James or Anthony Davis or both don't play. Jared Vanderbilt sat last night. I kind of expect him to play today, to be honest. So I have some interest in him if Anthony Davis sits. But long story short, we really just have to wait and see what happens with AD and LeBron. Unfortunately, this isn't the first game on the slate, so there's that. But I do think we'll get this news in time. This is a okay matchup against the Spurs, so I'm willing to go heavy on the Lakers today, and I expect I'll end up being significantly over the field to quite a few of these guys, but we just have to wait for the news to break. And I think a lot of them will be in decent spots. They're priced up. Like, DK didn't give us a break, but they're still not that expensive. Like, guys like Rui, if LeBron or AD are out, would be someone that I want to look at, and I want to make sure I have exposure to. Torrey Prince had a decent night last night, I believe, but I would like him a bit more too if the two high usage guys off the court. Vanderbilt would see a nice boost for me as well. And then Russell and Reeves would just be even more involved, so they would see a nice boost as well. So like I said, the Lakers are a team I would plan to have exposure to if AD and LeBron are out. If they play, I would just have exposure to AD, and I would expect him to be relatively low owned. So I'll probably have like a 10, 20% min on him. So yeah, I like the Lakers. Nationally televised game too, so I think we'll definitely get that news pretty early. For the Zola said Reeves would be a great play, so will Wemby, as they have no one to stop him. Yeah, like this whole game becomes better based on what that news is. Let's see. Jackson Hayes at 4K is interesting if AD is out in Prince. Yeah, exactly. I think people were shocked to see Hayes see a little bit of run yesterday too, and I don't think it's spread. I don't think it's shocking at all. Hanger said 1.5 point spread, no chance they play. Yeah, I don't think you're wrong there. The Spurs are trying to turn things around and get a win. It's been a bit for them as well. I think, honestly, if AD plays or if he doesn't play, I still think this is a really good spot for Wemby. It's crazy. Never mind. I'm not going to go on a rant on Victor right now. But I think this is a really good spot for him. 8,800. Price tag is getting up there a little bit, but he deserves it at this point. So I like him. Outside of that, it's really hard to trust these Spurs, but the matchup's fine. I'm more comfortable attacking them with guards. So Vassell, Sohan, they're viable options. It looks like they're getting ownership. Oh, that's gross. That's gross. Yeah. I'm gonna look a little bit closer at it, but I'm probably not going to be over the field on these guys. I think Victor's really the only guy I'm excited to play here. Outside of that, the rest of them are just lineup fillers for me. There's some upside there, like I said, with the guards. But that's really all I would look at. Next up, we have another fun game. We have the Pacers against the Bucks. You think AD sits and LeBron plays? I would be cool with that. I want a low-owned Wemby too. That's when I like playing him the most. But and my rant wasn't really about him. It was just how much shit I got at the start of the season for playing him, and I was just like, guys, 7,900 is too cheap for him. Anyway, for the Pacers, we've seen Halliburton do well in this spot. Fantastic matchup. We like playing guards against the Bucks. Fantastic play. Halliburton, low ownership. We'll be over the field on him. We'll make the DS do the hard work of trying to figure out how we're going to do it. But he makes a lot of sense today. And thankfully, he's low owned, so you don't have to go too crazy with these guys. Again, Embiid and Halliburton are my two favorite pay up options, and they're both very low owned. So I can still have a lot of really good mid range lineups, but then still have a few that are super low owned and with some crazy high upside guys. Turner's fine, but he's not one of my favorite bigs on the slate. I'm okay with a little bit of exposure. We know how streaky all of the Pacers are. If I get a little bit of exposure to them naturally, I'm fine with it, but I'm not overly excited. Isaiah Jackson's volatile as all hell. Not really excited about getting there, but I'm okay with around field weight exposure to him. Yeah, Mo, you were a real one. Zoe said Dame revenge game for Halliburton using a celebration. I was kind of surprised Dame was that bitter about that, to be honest, but people surprise you sometimes. Randall in a better situation. That's why I don't get Wemby. Yeah, you can play both though. But I do agree Randall's in a good spot too. Yeah, Wemby at center or power forward, that flexible eligibility is what really helps him stand out for me. Yeah, and Siakam is another really good big. There's a lot of really good bigs on this slate, and that's why I'm just not as excited about guys like Capella and Turner. I just can't get there, but I'm more so willing to play Wemby, Siakam. Those are really the two guys in Podol in that game too. Anyway, for the Bucks, more bigs on the slate. Giannis and Lillard are both low owned, and this is the highest total game on the slate. You all know me. I'm usually willing to force exposure to the expensive guys in these high total games. So Giannis and Lillard are going to be those guys for me on this slate. Brook Lopez has just been really good. Good matchup against the Pacers. So I like him. He's one of the bigs I'm willing to prioritize, but his ownership's relatively high. So we'll have to see on the pre-lock show just how easy it will be to get the right exposures and still get leverage to the bigs I like on this slate. That's going to be one of the big tests. For those of you who are curious about the pre-lock show, that is at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. It's for VIP members only. Feel free to click the link in the description, promo code BOB for a 10% discount there if you're interested. Outside of that, Malik Beasley's fine as like a low-owned dart throw. I think he's interesting a little bit at 5,400. Outside of that, not really loving a lot of these other pieces here. This was a game that I thought I was going to be able to write off, but now Desmond Bane is listed as questionable. Let's see. You like Chris Middleton? Chris Middleton, 6,500. Not awful. Not awful. I don't think I'll be going there today, but I get it. Nice high total game, low ownership. Similar argument for these guys. Just minutes can be a little volatile at times, but he's been trending in the right direction there, so I don't hate it. Next up, we have the Grizzlies with Desmond Bane listed as questionable. The guys who see the highest increase in usage when Desmond Bane is out is Jaren Jackson Jr. at 7.3% increasing usage, Kenneth Lofton at 6.6% increasing usage, Zaire Williams 4.3% increasing usage, and Derrick Rose with 3.9% increasing usage. If Desmond Bane is ruled out, I will be over the field to Jaren Jackson Jr. Nah, no surprise there. Derrick Rose would be someone that I would force into a few lineups. I like where he's priced. He can be efficient, a really scary play, but one I'm willing to take a shot on. And then Zaire Williams, again, if Bane is out, I'm willing to have some exposure to him as well. So that's just the way I'm treating it now. If Bane plays, I'm not playing any of these guys. Did you, Zello? Middleton didn't really have that many explosive games, but I could be remembering it wrong because you all know I don't have the best memory. Off minutes. Can't play Jackson at that price with what's around him, but that's me. Yeah, I think JJJ will be a lot better once Ja Morant comes back, but low ownership, I'm willing to take these kind of weird shots on guys who can be explosive in decent matchups. Rockets aren't a team you love to pick on anymore, but still not a team I'm afraid of, to be honest. And then Fred VanVleet is really just a sim model play. These teams play at a pretty slow pace, which is why they have such a low total. Not expecting a ton of points to be scored here, but when we look at the sim, we go to 8,500. Let's see, we have Fred VanVleet. He's another one of those guys in this 8K range, just like Cade Cunningham, who has upside, who will be pretty low owned. And for me, I'm willing to take shots on those kind of guys. And honestly, Scotty Barnes falls in that category too. So I might as well just go ahead and put a like on him too, because I'm going to end up playing him as well. Anyway, back on track. We have, what are you saying? Ja Morant is sitting at the Stone Min when he comes back, free square that day. They're going to up his price. They're going to up his price. He won't be that cheap. If he is, you're right, but he won't be that cheap. So weird you can't pick on Rockets or Wolves anymore. Yeah, it kind of messes with my head a little bit because they were teams we could pick on for so long, but yeah, it is what it is. Things change. All right, next up we have the Knicks against the Jazz. And so we know that this Jazz team is a god-awful defense. This is a good matchup for Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, the whole crew, if we're being honest. Unfortunately, Isaiah Hartenstein did see a price increase to 5K. He's still priced where he has some upside here, but I'm not prioritizing him as much as I'm prioritizing some of the other bigs. Would still love to see him show up, but it's a 9-game slate. You can't play everybody. Similar story with Baird and Hart. I think they have some upside. They're seeing some ownership, and I know unless the domination station forces them in, which I don't foresee happening, I'm not going to be able to get good leverage here. So I doubt I'll be going there. Whereas the guy I am looking to prioritize and force him the lineups if he's not showing up naturally for me is a guy like Julius Randle. I like picking on the Jazz's front court, and I want to be significantly over the field to Randle. Well, that being said, though, when it comes to Randle and Brunson, whoever has the good matchup, sometimes the other guy ends up going off, and Brunson's lower owned. So I'm totally fine with people taking shots on Brunson here. I think that's actually a decent strat, but I'll follow the sim and the matchup here and play Randle, which is a little bit more boring. The Jazz side of things is also surprisingly boring. We do have a lot of injury news that could change that. We have John Collins listed as questionable, Lauri Markkanen listed as questionable, Walker Kessler listed as questionable, and then Clarkson is going to be out for a while now, which is unfortunate for him. With that being said, I am going to play Keontae George again, but not in this matchup. I don't like picking on the Knicks. He's getting decent ownership too, which helps me not want to take a low-owned leverage play shot on him. But he definitely has upside. He's shown that when Clarkson doesn't play. Ultimately, unless Market and Collins and Kessler are all out, I'm not really playing the Jazz tonight. If all three are out, I'll end up playing some Fontecchio. I'll have some Olynyk exposure. I even take some shots on THT if all three are out, but I don't think that's going to happen. I expect at least one or two of those guys to play, so I'll be fading them. And then the Hammer, both of these are the Hammer game. Slate will be ending a little early at 9. It's hard for me to get overly excited about the Nets here. They all are priced pretty appropriately. They're all pretty low owned. Matchup against the Suns isn't a super soft matchup. So it's just kind of bleh. I think Bridges could be an interesting tournament play. Cam Johnson's priced up now. Claxton, I don't love the matchup. I like other bigs more. Sim model's not on Bridges. Last time I looked, 80 per 100. Yeah, it never likes Bridges. I do think Bridges is still a fine tournament play, but I don't think I'll be playing the Nets tonight. All right, for the Suns, another team that just looks kind of meh. We are waiting on injury news, which is a pretty big deal. We have KD listed as TBD, Bradley Beal listed as TBD, Grayson Allen is unlikely to play, Josh Okogie was looking so good yesterday. I had a little bit of a man on him yesterday during the pre-lock show. It was only 5%, so didn't crush him too much, but had some lines looking pretty good with him in it. But anyway, he's unlikely to play. So we really just have to wait and see what happens here with KD and Beal. I expect one of them will play, which make the Devin Booker play a little bit worse, but I think he's very viable here. Bradley Beal didn't look great yesterday. I don't love this matchup against the Nets, so I don't foresee myself getting here. Really, the only Sun I'm looking at playing if KD's out is Devin Booker. He's super expensive, so he's not going to be like one of my top high-end plays who I have significantly over the field on, but I'll probably have anywhere between 2 and 5%. Let's see. Anyone else we should talk about here? Nurkic was pretty good yesterday. This is a back-to-back for these guys, so that's worth considering as well. Eubanks saw some decent run last night. Me Too was on fire for a while. I was not on him. But of course, if KD's out and he ends up starting again at 4,200, I'm willing to take the shot there. But ultimately, I don't think I'll get here too much either. So we will see. It's an interesting slate. I like the early games way more than late games. So hopefully that doesn't screw me. But it's looking like an interesting night. Some interesting news. So we'll have to keep a close eye on this slate per usual. Mo said Jazz are hurting with injury. Yeah, they were hurting before the injuries, but now they're hurting even more. Randall is going to Draymond Green that team without touching no one. That would be kind of funny. Would shock me, though. Mo said, I want to X the Jazz out completely. I do, too. But they have all these questionable tags, so we have to be like, are they going to play? If they don't play, we have to consider some of these other guys. I hate questionable tags, if you can't tell. They give us all of the edge in the world when it comes to DFS, but it makes it very frustrating at times. Anyway, y'all, that's the show. I look forward to seeing you guys in the pre-lock show at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, if you're able to join that by being a VIP member. If not, I look forward to see you all tomorrow. Brandon, of course, will be on the pre-lock show today, so he'll be able to help us out, get us into a good spot, make sure we're good to go. Goodbye, y'all. Have a good one.